Community Legal Services has over 100 attorneys, advocates, and support staff located throughout 12 counties dedicated to providing free legal aid to low-income families throughout Central Florida. Joining us now to talk about this is CEO of Community Legal Services, Jeff Harvey. Welcome to Legal Connections.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What is Community Legal Services?
So Community Legal Services it's a nonprofit law firm. We're organized specifically to focus and provide services, civil legal services, to the bottom 20% of Floridians in terms of income and other vulnerable populations like seniors, veterans, survivors of domestic violence throughout 12 counties. We're in 12 counties.
A nonprofit law firm.
Yes.
Start with that.
Yeah. So as a nonprofit law firm, we do not charge anything for our services. Mm-hmm. All the services are paid for through donations and grants and other support that we receive through federal, state, local governments. We take cases that really matter to people in terms of their basic life needs. So issues that deal with income, shelter, safety, those types of things. And because they're basic needs, we have to do them. You know, that you can't not.
I love that. What are the services that you're offering to renters, for example?
So to renters, we can provide a whole range of services. We can start with just lease reviews if people want to, on the front end of renting, want to look at a lease and kind of get some advice on that. We provide eviction defense. While there have been in Orange County specifically a lot of issues with people being behind on rent, sometimes the evictions aren't based on rent. And so in those circumstances, it gets a lot trickier. Mm-hmm. We provide advice on issues related to that in terms of if there is a rental, hey, I'm going to miss my rent payment, I'm having trouble, what should I do? And sometimes we'll provide intervention related to those as well, talk to landlords and see if we can't help them work it out. And then when we had the Orange County resource with rental assistance, we provided a lot of help there too. We would work with other, a lot of times for-profit companies that wanted to do good in the community and set up fairs where we can actually get people signed up for the rental assistance and then at the same time provide them legal advice and give them some direction.
What about the elderly? I know there's lots of services needed for them. What are some of the things that you're providing?
Yeah, so I'm really excited. We're getting ready to start this year to focus on the safety, economic both and personal safety of seniors. We're adding a couple of lawyers to the organization that are going to focus specifically on injunction work and protection work for that population. And then really, when they talk about elder law, it's interesting because a lot of people think of, wills and estates and those types of things, but the senior population really has special status under the law because of some of the challenges that they have. And so we often find that when we're dealing with seniors, we're dealing with things like foreclosure, we're dealing with things like consumer debt, getting scammed. A lot of times they get scammed, and how do we help them out of that? One of my personal cases was a situation where there was a nice old lady. She was probably about 80 years old, and after relying on family members to help her and move in and kind of take care of her, she found herself on the street, and they were taking her home.
Oh.
Yeah, and so even in that type of scenario, we stepped in. We were able to help basically get all the equity she had in her home back and get her into a place to live. So,
wow, that is so good to hear. A lot of times when people think about lawyers, unfortunately, they don't have positive things to say, and I just love that you are providing these useful and necessary legal services for the vulnerable. What about the military and veterans?
So veterans, as a veteran myself,
thank you.
very soft spot that I have for them. We do the stuff that you would think of, like issues with VA and access to benefits, but we also deal with a number of other things too. And if you think about all of the different areas of law, family law and consumer law and housing law, we provide those services to them as well. One of the partnerships we're looking at exploring is there's an entity in the federal government that is very interested in ensuring that there's compliance with USERRA, so the the employment protections for service members, as well as the Service Member Civil Relief Act. And so while we already do a little bit of that work, we're excited about the potential of kind of finding ways to ramp that up.
Last question, if you could quickly touch on what does it take for someone to be eligible for your services?
Eligibility can be complicated. I think at its very basic, you've got to be at or below 200% of the poverty level, which is it's kind of challenging to meet. I want to say it's for a family of four, it's less than $60,000 total family income. But there are a whole bunch of exceptions. For survivors of domestic violence, there is no income limit. For seniors, in most cases, there is no income limit. We get special grants from time to time to work on things like we've got a project out of Eatonville where we're focused specifically on heirs property and the heirs property problem, and making sure that people that have been in that community for years continue to stay in that community for years and are aware of all of the things that they should do to kind of protect the interest they have in property. And so, in those scenarios, we look to get funding that helps us solve the problem and not just limits it to a particular population. But if I may, one of the challenges we have is that we focus on this bottom 20%. But then there's the next 20% that still can't afford a lawyer but don't qualify for our assistance. And that's such a tough group to help because we're restricted on funding. And so you see scenarios where there's somebody that has a legal issue. We can't do anything to help them until that legal issue ruins their lives, and then we can help them. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense to have a scenario like that. So we're trying to focus on ways to help that group too.
I was going to say, sounds like another nonprofit.
Or an extension of this one.
Yeah. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for sharing. This is refreshing to hear about, and we're happy to have had you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Community Legal Services' mission is to provide no-cost legal services to the most vulnerable in Central Florida and to help them protect their families' health and livelihood. For more information, please visit clsmf.org, or you may call 1-800-405-1417.